found. But you don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air, like a blazing flare. Don't stare, cause the flames will burn us. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me. Hold your hand while the pain was over. Keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me. Like shadows in the atmosphere, charting the stratosphere. Yeah. I prayed for you and kept you near in hopes you'd chase away my fears. I'm on my own, you made it so, and now I'm chasing nightmares. I used to run with you through the great big leaves, laugh at you when you laugh at me. Hope for us because I believe the home was just you and me. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. No point in blaming you, you did not know. Oh. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me.
Never gonna give you up. I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna say goodbye, no. Never gonna give you up. I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna say goodbye, no. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna give. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna give. Never gonna say goodbye, no.
Why do I feel like I linger? Linger between the words to say the words to remember. Now we're here to take control over your body and over your soul. We're gonna take back everything and lose it all. Lose it all. Lose it all. Feel it in your arms. Feel it in your legs. Feel it on your fingertips and feel it in your head. Just let your body go. Just let your body go. Just let your body go and move to the rhythm. Now we won't go back home today, until the very last hour. We still got few more days to slay, It's gonna get so much louder. Now we're here to take control over your body and over your soul. We're gonna take back everything and lose it all. Lose it all. Lose it all. Feel it in your arms. Feel it in your legs. Feel it on your fingertips and feel it in your head. Just let your body go. Just let your body go. Just let your body go and move to the rhythm.
show me how to get to know someone like you, someone like you.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Victorian High School Esports League. I will be your play-by-play for this game. I am Aj W and I'm joined by my good friend Perplexer, who will be your colorcaster for this evening. How are you doing, Perp?
Yeah, man, I'm doing well. Keen to see these two high school teams go at it once again this week. A little bit of beef in the names here. HT greater than Melbourne High School. Gonna be interesting to see how they fare against what I assume is some form of rivalry. Definitely gonna be interesting to see if they prepared for certain matchups. Gonna be doing certain counter bans, to certain player preferences. Probably studied the other team quite a lot, given that name, but we'll definitely have to see how things go as the match plays out. What do you think you're going to expect from this game?
Well, at the moment we have MHS Black on the blue side for this game, and HT is greater than MHS on the red side. Both teams currently have 2 wins each, so they're both, I believe, undefeated so far in the league. So it's going to be a bit of a deciding factor as to which is the superior team, more or less, between these two. So likely things are going to be a bit intense for the two of them.
I think intense is probably the right word to use here. I think that a lot of things are going to be taken into account by both teams respecting the other team, maybe a little bit, knowing that they do have those wins. This isn't the early stages of the game tournament like the last few weeks, and so we'll have to see what sort of strategies they try to pull out, what sort of approaches they try to use, if they go for more risky early game plays, like we have seen some teams try to do early game. Risky, but interesting to do.
Yep, okay. A little bit of a latency there from my mate Perp. We are going to have these champion select screen coming up now. We do have the first band coming through on the blue side, which is going to be the Anivia. We're going to have the red side band coming out just momentarily. It's going to be the Morgana, with a slight buff to her kit recently in the last patch, which was a movement speed bonus on her ultimate. And now we're going to have the second band coming out from the blue side right now. Everything all good, Perp?
I appear to be good now, but I am really interested to see what that Anivia ban was picked up for, because the picks that don't do well into something like an Anivia haven't really been seeing a lot of play. So it often shows that you'll have someone that's quite weak at the early game, not being able to match that wave push that Anivia is going to be able to provide. But banning out the Vayne there, I suspect, is a targeted pick, but you never know. Vayne can be quite a force to be reckoned with if they get online, as we've seen in some of the previous games.
And we are going to see the Shaco ban coming out from the red side, a very oppressive and aggressive early jungle that can either experience that through early invades or the notorious level 2 gank in the mid or top lane, which can easily decide the fate of those single laners. And we're going to have a Bard ban. That's an interesting ban coming out from the blue side. Something that is rather niche, in my opinion. So it's
as niche as the Bard ban is, I wouldn't have to put it past them, given how successful Choose One. I don't know how to say that name, but I'm gonna hope that was right. He has got a significantly decent KDA at 4.62 per death on his Bard, so definitely a targeted ban there towards him. A lot of respect being shown to that pick. But
yeah, and we're going to have the Kai'Sa ban coming through, so they're going to ban that notorious thing. And as we talked about earlier, before this broadcast, there was the hover on the Kayle pick there. Kayle is now a viable and legal pick now, as of the 17th, I believe.
Seems they're just teasing it, though, and they do pick up the Ezreal, which I think is definitely a safer pick. Especially against a jungler like a Rek'Sai, who is able to get in those awkward, sneaky angles coming from the, behind you with the tunnels, being able to have that almost a flash on your E, definitely providing a lot of safety in the bot lane. We'll have to see if they try to pick up something like a solo laner here to be able to get a priority pick, like the Poppy in that top lane. But I'm keen to see what sort of support they pick up for this Ezreal to try and get him through the early game and have some strong sort of oppressive nature in lane, because unless Ezreal's able to generate some form of lead in the early mid game, normally he falls off compared to most ADCs.
Yes, and we are going to have the Darius coming in, more than likely going to be the top lane pick, as well as the Jinx Hover at the moment. It's going to be locked in as the counter ADC. And with the Rek'Sai specifically, I'm curious as to what rune page they're going to run in this matchup, because there was the buff on the Rek'Sai Q, granting that Fury proc for the knock-up on the Q when they are burrowed. And we're going to have Chosen One, I believe that's how it's pronounced.
Chosen One
picking
does
the
sound more
support.
correct.
It's going to be Tahm Kench, a very defensive-oriented team coming out from the red side so far.
I think that the Tahm Kench is an interesting pick. I would have preferred to see something like the Braum to have that early playmaking potential, because as you can see, you can already sort of make out how the map's going to play out, because Darius, as you may have known, if you've played against the Darius in game, can be an extremely oppressive laner, especially against someone like a Poppy, who doesn't really have a lot of tools in her kit to be able to answer just the raw damage that Darius is able to provide. So you'll definitely have to see Rek'Sai try and make a lot of plays happen in top lane, get this Darius ahead, while Jinx just tries to farm up and sort of concedes the bot lane early game to be able to scale into that crazy late game teamfighting machine that she can become.
Yeah, and we are getting through the last couple bans coming through now. Braum actually being the final ban from the red side, which was preceded by the Zoe. And speaking of niche bans, a Victor coming out from the blue side, supposing that that is something that they do not want to face in the mid lane, as well as the Lissandra coming through. Lissandra, you don't tend to see that too much ever since the placebo nerf towards her.
Yes, but as I have just quickly looked up, it does appear that 3 bans now have been targeted on the 3 main champions that Diverse Sheep does play, being the Anivia, the Victor, and the Lissandra, which does explain why those bans were chosen. I presume a lot of respect being shown to that player, not really wanting to give him a comfort pick. But I'm going to be interested to see, after all of this mid-priority ban, what they pick up to be able to secure an advantage in the early game, or if they try to go for something a little more scaling, a little more team-oriented. Something like a Galio would be quite nice for the Jinx, but...
that is a good potential pick. We're going to have the Nami coming in as the support pick, and then we're going to have a Lonely Prince coming in with the last pick on the blue side, giving Diverse Sheep that ability to counterpick the mid lane and give themselves a bit of a favorable matchup. So we are going to likely see the mid lane pick coming through now for the blue side through Lonely Prince, opting for the teleport. So we are going to see some kind of defensive pick here. Hovering the Zillion, it's going to be locked in. So that's more than likely going to be a Zillion in the mid lane. That's something that you don't see too often.
Now, I have to say, I like this team comp. I really liked the Nami pickup here to be able to provide some safety for your Jinx in teamfights, as well as allowing your Darius to survive a little longer on that frontline role that he's going to be taking up with the Rek'Sai. My issue I have with picking up someone like the Zillion is now you're lacking that easy-to-execute go button that someone like a J4, someone like a Poppy, and equivalently the Orianna is able to provide for the red team here. Able to just be able to jump in with the Jarvan, chuck the ball, ult off, get an easy team fight, as opposed to having to weave in with the Rek'Sai tunnels, somehow speed up your Darius to be able to get on top of the carries, which a Zillion is able to do, but it's a lot harder to execute. And so we'll have to see how they approach handling something like this team comp when you're faced with the sheer frontline walls of Poppy, Tahm Kench, and Jarvan.
Yeah, and looking at the Orianna pick that have just come through, that can actually spell a bit of disaster for the Zillion coming through, because the Zillion, at least in the early levels, doesn't actually have a lot of trading power, per se, especially against someone with Orianna who gains that extra damage stacking on the auto attacks that she can easily just dish out willy-nilly.
Yes, I have to say that this is going to be quite jungler dependent on who is able to establish that sort of lane dominance, because I think that a Rek'Sai, once you do that early clear, you're able to really easily provide some sort of pressure. I think the 2v2 established by Zilean and Rek'Sai is maybe a little stronger early than the Orianna and the J4, but again, that comes down to pathing, it comes down to priority. If bot lane is able to establish some sort of priority and get bot side control, then you'll definitely see Rek'Sai trying to path up more to the Darius and maybe not be able to spend as much time on Zilean because he wants to make sure that Darius is able to get a lead. But anything's up in the air at this point. I think that Nami is a really nice option against something like the Tahm Kench. So bot lane is probably going to be up to the skill level of the players. I think that definitely at this level, skill level, as much as you want to talk about matchups, it does come down to how well the players do know their champion and are able to execute on a lot of this stuff.
Absolutely, and as you said, the bot lane, it can pretty much go either way. The red side has opted for a more defensive build, but so has the blue side in a way, so overstepping their own boundaries could lead to one side gaining some form of advantage. But a key factor, as you mentioned before as well, is the Darius. As a Darius player myself, numerous seasons on Darius, if Darius can get ahead, he can absolutely 1v5 the entire game, especially with the support of, say, a Zilean, who can get that speed boost on top, and even just the revive in case he oversteps and gets caught out by the mass amounts of CC, whether it be the Poppy stun into the wall or the Tahm Kench devour. If Darius can get ahead, that can be game over as it is.
Now, you say a lot of... We've talked a lot about the Darius here, and we've talked about how he needs to get a lead early, and I still think that is a priority for the blue team coming into this game. You want him to be a side lane threat. You want him to be able to take up these objective fights. But I'm looking at that Jinx, and I'm thinking if she's able to get to that 3-item spike that ADCs love to hit, she is going to tear through the enemy team as long as she is able to stay away from that engage of that Jarvan-Orianna combo. If she is able to keep this Poppy and Jarvan off of her with the double support of a Nami and a Zilean, I think that she is going to be a massive threat late game. The problem is, of course, keeping them off you. When with an Orianna backing them up, that's not going to be as easy as it is to say.
And speaking of the Poppy, I've noticed on the side of the blue side, there's not too many dashes that the Poppy W would exactly reflect, except for probably the most noticeable one is the Rek'Sai ultimate, which could easily be used to just deny that execute. That is the key factor around the Rek'Sai ultimate. So if the Ezreal or the Orianna gets tagged super heavy, so long as the Poppy is on top of them, they can easily deny any sort of Rek'Sai execute that may potentially come through. As well as the potential, I believe, Rek'Sai E is also blocked by the Poppy W. And this game coming through here is definitely going to be interesting. Like, eyes have to be pretty much everywhere, because the bot lane could go one way, the top lane could go one way, even the mid lane could go one way. And if one side tends to dip in the favor of the others, it's going to be up to the other lanes to pick up the slack, more or less. This game is relatively evenly matched, all things considered.
As much as I want to agree with you that it's completely even here, I have to say that I much prefer being in a state of advantage if you're the red team here, with the more... Sorry, did I say red team? The blue team, I believe. With the much more defensive team comp that they've established with the Ezreal, with the Jarvan, with the Orianna. If you're in a position of advantage with this team comp, it is so much harder for the other team to crawl back into the game. You have so much control over just being able to force objective fights, force engages when you want them to happen, and you also have the option of just being able to sit with your Ezreal Tahm Kench in a side lane, shove 3 members down mid lane, or just do it 1-2-2 with your Poppy split pushing. There's so much more versatility being provided by this team comp. The problem, again, though, is if they don't have that lead, if they aren't able to choke their opposition out of advantages, they are going to slowly fall behind, and they don't really have any options of coming back.
And I've noticed that on the Rek'Sai, the rune page, that was kind of going to be a deciding factor, more or less, onto how I can interpret on how the Rek'Sai is going to be playing. And they've opted for the Conqueror rune page, which is surprising to me.
No, I definitely was expecting the what is it? The
Hail of Blades.
Hail of Blades. That's the name of it.
Yes. Hail of Blades is a very, very nice rune page for Rek'Sai. It allows you to get that knock-up and proc all 3 Fury auto-attacks before they even touch the ground, pretty much, resulting in that immediate E-bite for true damage, which can be just absolutely devastating for a jungler who doesn't exactly build too tanky in the early game, such as Jarvan.
Definitely. No, I think that it would have been nice to see, but I can understand the safety and comfort of picking up something like the Conqueror. I think that it's definitely not a bad rune, but would have been nice to see a little more experimentation there.
Yeah, they can definitely still orient for more of a tanky Rek'Sai build. Looking at the Darius, they've opted for Conqueror as well, which is a more or less natural pick, but they're going to get out-traded pretty heavily by the Poppy, to my experience, at least from watching these kind of matchups, where the Poppy is easily able to just proc Grasp constantly with their passive Shield Bash.
Yeah, but I do have to point out that Darius has opted for the TP here, which is not something you often see. Normally you see them running Ghost or very rarely Ignite. Definitely showing that he's probably going to try and look for some more map-oriented teamfight plays, which I think the Darius rocking up to a fight in bot lane or Dragon is definitely something to be scared and feared, but it is still not necessarily the most optimal summon spell on the Darius, because he doesn't really have those engage tools like the Ghost would provide. Then again, he is on a team with a Zillion and a Nami. Speed may not be his most priority concern at the moment. Definitely going to have enough of that in the kit.
Yeah, and but with the Darius at the same time, you have to give a bit of a commendation, because it is the 5v5 league setting where teamwork is pretty much the key factor. More or less, you're not really going to be able to do that solo 1v5 carry at all the time, because the enemy team does have that teamwork factor. And, well, we are going to have to synchronize up for a slight moment as we get all nice and synced up with the broadcast, and we should be ready to go soon enough.
And a second now.
Yep. And we are going to be good in 3, 2, 1, as we are now watching the champions leave the fountain, and we're going to have a couple flashes being blown on the side of the red team. Pretty sure those weren't accidental.
Was something. I mean, you have a flashless bot lane and a flashless Orianna. That is not ideal. Your Orianna definitely doesn't have a lot of escape tools, and up against something like a Rek'Sai, having that flash down is going to be crucial for this early game. As well as
it's troubling to see attitudes like this coming from young high school players.
It's definitely disappointing.
It is. It does somewhat reflect on their general sportsmanship. Like, yes, obviously their team can't necessarily tell that they've used the summoner spells, but well, everyone else who's watching can, and you can see that
they might have fat fingered it. You know, you never
never know.
It's okay, but you know what? I think that looking at the pings, looking at the setup here, both teams are opting for quite safe play, which showing a bit of respect to the opponent's options. You know, not really wanting to give anything away. You can see Pixel Bush's wards coming out for the blue team here, which is really nice to see. Just setting up that early vision to be able to track where this J4 goes.
Alright, and we are going to have a pause because I believe there's an issue with the Poppy on the red side. Pause is going to be coming through now. It seems that the issue has been resolved. They were unable to put skills into their skill level into their spells. We're going to see a pretty standard start here coming from both sides. You know, red, both junglers starting on the bottom side of the map, getting their duo bot lane to give that prime leash.
You can see though that the Rek'Sai is opting to try and go for the early clear to the top side of the map, which is nice to see. Definitely wanting to help out his Darius, try and establish some sort of lead. Getting after the Startle Crab, I expect him to either go for the blue or look for an early gank.
Yeah, and we are going to see Darius trying to go for the early trade, misses the Q, so he's unable to get that 4th hemorrhage stack. But he's going to be able to keep on farming, and as we can see, that Poppy able to get some good harass with that grass proc. with the Rek'Sai, I am a little bit surprised that they didn't opt to go for the red to Krug route, as that does relate in an immediate
J4
level 2. And we're going to
behind.
have J4 coming into the bot lane. He does have EQ up, he's going to be able to land it, but it doesn't connect onto the Jinx, and the Jinx is pretty much going to be able to get out scot-free, as the bot lane on the red team just wasn't really in a good position to help there. They were both level 1.
They also didn't have flashes to be able to follow up if they got engaged, so...
Exactly.
A bit unfortunate there, but you can see Rek'Sai is answering J4's early aggression by invading for the red, which is really smart play, being able to maximize knowing where J4 is. Question is, though, are they able to clear it before J4 gets there?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And we can see a bit more aggression coming in on the top side as the Darius is getting a good amount of harass down onto the Poppy. Landing with the Q again, unfortunately didn't
Setting
go
up
for
for
the
the
auto
gank.
attack for the... Yeah, and Rek'Sai incoming now. Going to be able to land the knockup, and that's going to be an easy kill for Rek'Sai. That's first blood going towards the blue side.
And what's really crucial there is Poppy did actually flash just
Yep.
at the end of that fight, which means that, unfortunately, Darius is now in a position where he's able to really easily abuse this advantage in lane that he's gotten just being able to be in lane. J4 isn't able to force a kill because Darius has that flash up unless Poppy is able to get some miraculous wall stun.
Yeah, and we are going to see the Poppy teleporting back into lane, trying to minimize the experience disparity between them, but Darius is not going to go anyway. He is staying in lane. He is still relatively healthy and wants to get this farm before it crashes under the tower.
Yeah, definitely nice to see just how strong this Darius is early game, and the Rek'Sai being there to support him. Looking back over to the bot side, though, we can see that Ezreal and Tahm have been pushed in quite severely. Poppy getting chunked out in that trade is not what you want to see after getting first bloody.
Yes, bot lane does look quite severe. We are going to have a nice deep ward coming from the Nami into the red side blue jungle, as we have Rek'Sai rotating around, just trying to get a good amount of farm going after that successful gank in the top lane. We're going to have them go for Krugs now, so they are on the bot side, as is J4, as you can see, rotating down towards that romp. So we could see another gank coming here in the bot lane relatively soon, especially now that the scuttle is up.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that there's a lot of early priority being placed by J4 on this bot lane here. As you can see, he's hovering around there quite heavily. With the Scuttle Crab now up, as well as the fact that Poppy doesn't have teleport, I would like to see blue side try to make a play for this dragon here, but it's quite risky, I believe, with J4 being around the area, but we'll have to see what they try to make of it.
I think asking for a play around an Ocean Drake this early on is a bit ambitious. We are going to have a slight duel coming up now in the bottom side river, as I believe Rek'Sai was able to get the Scuttle Crab, and now Darius and Poppy are going at it yet again. Poppy forced to walk away as the damage is just too much, especially after Darius completing that phage, a very key item on Darius.
I think there was a really nice trade there by Poppy, though, because he ended up stunning Darius with the minion aggro on him in the wave, so he ended up taking a bit more damage than he normally would have, but it is a Darius with a phage. You're gonna lose the trade, and so we can see Poppy ended up backing and now is walking back to lane.
Yeah, and we are just going to see general trading coming out in the bot lane. Ezreal trying to land those Klepto procs. Dillion and Orianna both backing at around level 6. Level 6, of course, being a very nice power spike for Zillion. So if he rotates in towards maybe a jungle fight that J4 and Rek'Sai get into, that can definitely change the tide if it's unfavorable towards their team.
Both mid laners picking up the lost chapter there. It's a really nice way to be able to sustain the mana costs of your spells in lane. Being able to maintain minion waves, which is most important for being able to have that lane priority for these 2v2s that are probably going to start happening around the map quite soon. Seeing blue side bot lane here backing and Jinx picking up the BF sword, definitely going to be a force in the bot lane quite shortly when they come back to lane.
Now, I'm curious if this Ezreal will opt for that double tier build that has become rather notorious for Ezreal players, and we have Darius toying with his food. He's going to get the 5 stacks hemorrhage, and that's going to be a beautiful dunk coming through on the Darius. You can see a couple missing pings. Maybe the rest of the team is a little bit upset with the Poppy's sudden disappearance off the map.
That is a Darius for you. He gets a lead and he will just run with it. Not a lot of support being able to be lent to the Poppy either. So really being stuck in quite an unfortunate lane at the moment.
And
Really,
of course, Poppy with no teleport, able to stop the tower from getting taken. Darius does have Demolish, and that's going to be 2 platings going towards him.
plating, providing so much gold, being able to just snowball your lead that much more, making this Darius turn from a threat that he already was to probably a bigger monster as the game goes on. Sort of like a ticking time bomb.
Oh yeah, speaking of ticking. Unity build with the Sheen being completed, allowing that extra auto attack damage to come through. Things are pretty much only going to get worse for the Poppy unless they get some help for this stage.
Yeah, I would like to see some form of lane swap, if I'm being honest here. I think that the Ezreal and the Tahm Kench have that safety to be able to lock down this Darius and have decent enough wave clear that they're not going to let the turret fall. Whereas a Poppy is able to just turtle away from the Nami and the Jinx and try and soak some XP. But again, it doesn't seem like they're going to
have a gank coming in on the mid lane though. Orianna forced flash. It's going to make the Rek'Sai flash as well though. And a lot of damage coming through on the Rek'Sai. Ultimate coming through, and that's going to be the execute landing onto Orianna. However, Zilean picking up the kill very nice.
Yeah, I think it's really important that Zilean got that kill there. Just being able to get that a little bit extra gold that he's probably fallen behind in, that little bit of CS that you can see in the difference between the two. Just letting him become that much more ahead of Orianna in this lane lets Rek'Sai have that level of safety, knowing that top's got priority, knowing mid's got priority. Talking about top having priority.
Darius, he's going in. He lands the full stack ultimate, forcing the flash off the Poppy, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I think the hemorrhage stacks is going to be enough to know it's just enough. The Poppy passive paying
Poppy passive
Poppy
saving
passive.
the day.
And we are going to have a fight coming in the bot lane, though. Traps do land on Tahm Kench, and the ultimate will connect onto the Ezreal after the Tahm Kench flashes into the Ezreal, resulting in the death of the catfish.
That was
Bit of a misplay there.
That was a little bit of a mechanical error, a little bit of an unfortunate situation, but it does happen. At least
Gonna have first turret going down already, 9 minutes in, or sorry, 10 minutes in, and first turret will be going down in the top side relatively soon. Darius with that Sheen able to take it down pretty nicely. It's gonna be taken down on the 10-minute mark. There we go. Come on. Yeah, on the 10-minute
there we
mark.
go. You're a genius of analytics. But we'll
This
have to
Darius
see.
is going to reign supreme until somebody can stop him. We haven't seen any kind of pressure coming from Jarvan in that top side.
I honestly, I'm scared of going topside if I'm Jarvan. You want to try and get another lane ahead. You want to be able to have another lane of pressure, but they haven't been able to establish anything. You looked for him, you saw him try and get something early in the bot lane, but it didn't pay off. And now they've just been on the back foot ever since. And as I said at the beginning, if this team comp falls behind, they're just going to slowly get choked out and they're slowly going to lose because they don't have the tools in their team to be able to come back in this sort of situation. But you never know. One team fight goes south for blue team here. It's still early in the game. They are only 4k ahead, which at this level of play isn't the end of the world.
No, absolutely
So,
not.
one butchered Rift Herald fight, one scruffy dragon fight, and suddenly red team has an Orianna and a J4 that can engage on your team and tear everything apart.
Absolutely, and we're going to have a Orianna ultimate coming out. It's nothing much going to come out of it, just a decent amount of poke. I think the rest, the victory condition for red team more or less lies on the Ezreal. If he's able to out-kite these juggernauts on the blue side.
Juggernauts is probably the best way to put it. I think that they don't really have a lot of engage tools. Their engage tools consist of their Rek'Sai tunneling in or their Darius running in with the speed buffs from the Nami and the Zilean here. But those aren't exactly easy to do, and if you're able to position them correctly as this Ezreal with the Tahm Kench, with the
Darius
Orianna.
being very bold in that tri-brush area. He could easily get collapsed on if he's not careful, but he's just strutting his stuff around the jungle.
I think that was a calculated risk there. I think that bot lane have enough pressure to be able to force Tahm Kench and Ezreal to stay in the lane, but definitely risky maneuvers by this Darius here might be getting a little bit ahead of
Yeah, we're
himself.
gonna have the J4 ultimate coming through. Ezreal ultimate, True Shot Barrage will end up finishing him off, and the Jinx Rocket will clean up the kill on the Ezreal after the Darius hooks him in. And we're gonna have a little bit of a chase coming through here. No stun going to connect from the Zillion. Meanwhile, Poppy is just trying to gather up the pieces of what's left of their lane to try and become somewhat relevant later on.
Now, that fight went really quickly, and the True Shot Barrage did finish off negative in that fight, but I really liked the use of his ultimate there, immediately being cast as the J4 ulted in, and that's one of the main reasons I really liked this Nami pick. It's just being able to disengage and slow down the engages coming out of red team here. Unfortunately, of course, did end up getting taken out by the Ezreal ult, but really well played, slowing down the options that they had.
Yeah, and that will be second turret going towards the blue team, going straight into the Jinx's pocket. However, Jinx might be in a bit of trouble here as Ezreal is catching up to them. But Jinx able to flash over the wall and will get out safely.
Yeah, doesn't need the help of Rek'Sai, just flashes
be
over.
merciful. Alright. Poppy ultimate will sustain, or will delay the Darius' bloodlust for now, as he continues pushing that top lane. No one really able to stop him, just more or less delay the inevitable, as he's crashing under that tower. Now level 10, almost level 11. That is going to be absolutely devastating when he gets that level 2 ultimate reset proc.
And like we talked about at the beginning, if this Darius did get ahead, which he has very well established himself here in this dominant position, that he is able to just sit top lane, absorb so much pressure, and be such a threat that this Jinx is able to scale up, able to come online, and eventually just win the teamfights for them, even without Darius.
Yeah, and you can see the Darius just hovering around the Krugs, waiting for the Poppy to overstep so he can land that E apprehend and just finish the job and get that tower. He knows nobody's coming to help the Poppy.
And you can see the ward coverage being set up in this topside jungle for this Darius, allowing him to just maintain this pressure and maybe allow his team to look for a Rift Herald relatively soon, but it does look like they are trying to into the mid lane. No, they are going to opt for the Rift Herald here.
Yeah, Rek'Sai was spotted on the control ward though, so they do know that Rift Herald is likely being done. But Darius, with the pressure in the top lane,
they can't contest it.
Would not be able to rotate over. And the damage coming through, it's just going to be too much, and that ultimate is definitely going to be able to deal the finishing blow. No, the shield! Very nice play from the Poppy. Able
very
to block the execute. Darius spending a little bit too much time under the tower.
It's happened to the best of us.
Absolutely.
But a little PSA of everyone watching, always check the pixel bush when you're going for an objective, because people like to put pink wards in there, as you can see with the Rek'Sai at the moment, despite him being able to take it for free, as they have no answers to him at the moment.
And Darius able to get that turret as well. Rek'Sai now with the Rift Herald. That could easily spell disaster with a simple Rek'Sai and Darius split push together. Could just absolutely take out any lane towards the inhibitor.
See, you say Rek'Sai and Darius split push. I'm looking at this Jinx and thinking if they get one more item, these turrets are not going to last for half a second. With her shredding away at them. I think that Jinx is quite well known for her ability to just stack up those attack speed passives and tear down these turrets. And now, after the plates have dropped, they're just going to fall that much quicker.
Absolutely true. This is a turret-destroying team on the side of the blue side, if they are given the opportunities to do so. They're not so great with in terms of sieging, but they are good with taking out turrets that are undefended, and just that intense
or as Darius has found out, killing your laner and then taking the turret anyway.
Killing your laner under turret and then taking the turret anyway.
I think
have the blue side bot side rotating to mid now, trying to push in that turret so that we can get a bit more of an opening for them on the map. Meanwhile, Darius still in the top lane, uncontested. I mean, I say uncontested. Poppy is technically there, but I don't think Poppy can do anything.
I think uncontested is probably the best word right now. Not really. I think Red Team is struggling to find an answer to this Darius, and the longer that they take to find one, the more online this Jinx becomes, and their win condition is closing very quickly.
Getting that Demolish proc on that tower is just going to
So much
slowly
damage.
whittle it down. And we can see that he's already got the Durham's Fist, so he's going to be going for that Sterix Gauge, more than likely. As we can see, finally, they're looking to deal with the Darius, and they're going to try and collapse on top of him. Oriana all coming out, and it's just going to be too much. Darius getting just, well, more or less slowed down and held in place.
I would have
get that shutdown.
liked that a little bit earlier from the red team here, putting some priority on that top side, just being able to shut down this Darius, but they do trade it for a mid lane turret, and they are probably going to back off here, but I'd like to see them keep pushing. No, they are going to keep pushing, getting the extra charge off onto this turret.
Yeah, there could definitely be a fight brewing here, but it's definitely going to be unlikely, as we can see the blue team backing off now. Now, they were able to get the outer mid lane turret, but I feel like they could have gotten a bit more if they had just been a bit quicker on noticing that the Darius was getting closed in on. With that Rift Herald, they could have, gotten a bit more, maybe taken that inner turret as well.
That is true, but as we said earlier, they are a team comp that does, in fact, struggle with sieging. So in that sort of situation where they had to push down the second tier turret against someone like the Ezreal, like the Poppy, I think the options are quite limited. So I do like that they ended up trading Darius' life for something, but I do agree that they probably could have been a little bit cleaner there.
Yeah, and we do have the Darius now starting to build towards, more or less finishing off Sterix Gauge, which is pretty much going to be like a countdown timer, because it just gives him that extra survivability, extra damage, extra everything that Darius could ever want. And it's kind of... Yep.
Sorry to cut you off there, but
No,
Jinx
sorry.
has finished Runan's Hurricane.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Team
And those
fights
just
are going to
absolutely
be very
waiting super quickly. We do also have Archangels completed on Zillion, which is going to just allow that extra surplus of mana to spam out those bombs and spam out the speed and slows on top of other people, as well as the cooldown reduction for his ultimate, allowing for those revives within the team fight, which is likely going to more or less go on top of the Darius or the Jinx. I'd argue the Darius a bit more, because
Probably
let's be honest,
Darius.
Darius gets through.
I think if they're in a position to kill your Jinx, you're probably on the back end of the fight. But
Yeah, no, that'll definitely be the case for this for the way this game is going right now.
speaking of the way that the game is going, Baron is about to spawn, and blue team are almost completely uncontested in vision on the top side of the jungle here with that pink ward. I think that Zillion is trying to establish some form of vision to set up for this Baron, and with Darius drawing 4 members to bot side, it would be a very good opportunity to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Blue team is on the ball with this split push potential. You can see Darius waiting in the bush, not backing. He's waiting to see the other members on the red team before he starts pushing up again to draw them back in, so then they can potentially go for the Baron play.
Yeah, and you can see that they're moving from mid lane here, trying to get some form of...
Jarvan going in, though, on top of the Zillion and the Nami. It's not going to be enough, though. There's not enough damage coming through Poppy, especially no damage coming from her. And they're just going to be able to mop up the Poppy with the Zillion getting the kill. And that's going to be a Jinx rocket with longer ranges coming through, landing on top of them. And Oriana just standing in the line of fire is going to be taking so much damage from the Jinx, forced to flash away. Darius surprisingly taking a lot of damage from the Ezreal now as well, as he's reached that power spike. And as we can see, Rek'Sai is just hungry for more, trying to go in and get a cheeky Q off on the Oriana. And that's going to be an easy Baron with the teleport coming in from Zillion.
I think there was a little bit too much aggression there from the J4. He didn't have the follow-up yet, he didn't have the damage, and he went onto the Zillion of all people. I think that if he was able to get onto the Jinx, that might have been a good call, a good fight to try and take, but a little bit trigger-happy there, and it does cost them the Baron, which, unless Tom Kench does some miraculous steal, is going to be quite unfortunate for the red team here.
Yeah, that Baron is definitely going to be going down for the blue team. Ezreal, True Shot Barrage won't be on time to be able to get it, and meanwhile Darius is going to more than definitely take that bottom out in a turret with the Baron buff, as well as the just general Sheen procs and Demolish. Now,
So much split push potential.
looking at that last team fight, I don't think there was anything inherently wrong with the Jarvan's engage onto the Zillion and the Nami, but it's more along the lines of there wasn't anyone there to back him up with damage, because at the moment, Jarvan isn't really going to deal too much damage, and neither is Poppy. And those
Their
were
only
really the only
damage
two
threat-
people in there.
is probably Ezreal at the moment. I don't think that Orianna has scaled enough or got the items to be enough of a threat in these teamfights as a damage dealer. I think that she's great initiation with the Jarvan, great support, but definitely not enough numbers, like pure AP numbers coming out from her to be enough of a threat. I think that you need this Ezreal in a numbers advantage teamfight to be able to look at any hopes of winning on the
Absolutely, but nevertheless, you can't. You can look at that team fight and you can see that the Orianna and Tahm Kench were just way too far behind, and the Ezreal was off dealing with the Darius. Meanwhile, Ezreal getting hit by the bubble, nothing really going to come of it. But Orianna is super low and going to likely be forced to back away unless the Rek'Sai can land a Q, and that's going to be a beautiful Zillion stun coming through, followed by the Nami bubble, and Poppy trying to be some kind of aggressor is not going to even land the ultimate at point blank range, but that's a beautiful True Shot Barrage Orianna ult combo, but Rek'Sai coming through with the ultimate execute on top of Orianna, and they're going to be able to clean up Rek'Sai. Meanwhile, Darius, no one even saw this, getting the inhibitor uncontested. That is going to be an inhibitor easily going over to the blue side. Ezreal trying to stop it, but not going to be enough, and Darius walks away like the champion he is.
That team fight was going so well for red team there. They just needed to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit faster, and a little bit more well positioned to stop these sort of engages like that bubble coming out, like the Zillion stun. But Darius being in that mid lane, not having anyone contest him with the Baron buff, easily going to take that inhibitor, and now blue team are just that much more in control of this game. Especially the red team weren't able to get that Infernal Drake as a trade for the inhibitor.
Absolutely, and that True Shot Barrage Orianna ult combo was absolutely devastating for the back line on that blue side.
And you can imagine just how devastating that would be if they were slightly ahead. If the
Jarvan was there to ult on top of that.
If they had just a little bit more gold, a little bit more numbers, a little bit more tankiness, a little bit more members, they could have been such an oppressive team comp, but they have fallen behind in the early game and they're on the back foot, and so they are trying to
looking to collapse on top of the Darius here real quick. The Poppy ult is going to Poppy stun is going to land, as well as the Orianna ult. Darius though is just trying to man mode this. He's taking a lot of damage. He's not going to be able to take anyone down with him, unfortunately. But the blue side are able to get the Infernal Drake in return, which I feel is going to be definitely worth in the longer run of the game.
And you can see this consistently playing out from the blue team. They send their Darius as a solo man threat, and they trade it for an objective that they really need on the board. They did it for mid lane turret, they did it for Infernal Drake, and it just lets their Jinx become that much more of a threat, and that much more of
that's a beautiful Zillion stun coming through. Rek'Sai is trying to follow it up, but the Tahm Kench Devour saving the Ezreal from any sort of further damage, and that's going to be an easy inhibitor turret on that bot side, and they're going to likely take the inhibitor without any trouble as well. Poppy ult trying to land on top of the Jinx isn't going to connect, and that's going to be the inhibitor going down, and a quick rotate out, hopefully, by the blue side, uncontested by the red team following up on them.
Now, blue team is completely in control of this game. They just need to back, go topside, push that in, put their Darius in a solo lane, repeat what's been working for them, because red team has not found an answer to it yet. And unless red team discovers an answer to it yet, they are going to slowly get choked out of all their objectives, and then eventually they're just going to be overwhelmed by minions.
Yeah, and the thing about Darius sacrificing himself, he's already reached his power spike where he's going to consistently deal damage throughout the game. He's got the Trinity Force, he's got the Sterex Gauge. That's all a Darius really needs to be able to deal consistent enough damage, so long as he's got all 5 points into his E. Because that armor pen and the raw damage coming from those 2 items is more than enough to take down most team comps, regardless of the time in the game.
Completely, and if he's drawing 2 or 3 people just to be able to try and kill him, let alone take him down, then he's already doing more than enough for his team, which allows the Jinx to just tear through these turrets. It allows this Zillion to set up for engages and fights, Rek'Sai able to secure some objectives around the map, and it's just making them get that much more ahead when red team gets a little bit of a gold gain by taking out this Darius, and eventually it's just not going to be enough for this red team, and they are just going to end up being more and more behind.
And as you can see, Darius pushing into the base with the super minions, giving a very nice opening for the Jinx in that top lane to get that last inhib turret.
I would have liked to see the Darius wait a little bit here, which he does seem to be doing, for this minion wave to crash, for them to take the turret.
Yeah, you can see that he's waiting back and forth. A nice knock up onto the Ezreal. He's able to E out though. Rek'Sai taking a lot of damage, going to go down. That is a Guardian Angel proc coming through. I don't think they're going to be able to save him. They are with the flash over the wall. Meanwhile, Darius, with only the Poppy there to really stop, is just taking out the Nexus turrets. Those don't respawn, friends.
But Poppy is significantly tanky at this stage in the game, so she is able to tank enough of his damage to wave clear the minions out, but top lane tower is falling and the minion waves are coming in.
Yeah, we can tease 2 super minions crashing under that tower, and we can see that the Poppy and the Jarvan is ulting onto the team fight, and they definitely want to fight this. This is going to go the red team's way. We finally get the Zilean ult coming through on top of the Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai is likely going to try and finish off the Orianna with the ultimate coming through. Darius, meanwhile, is pushing on the Nexus with Poppy there. He's going to take a lot of damage from the tower. It's not enough to take him out, though. Meanwhile, the blue team just barely able to get away from the red team backline, with the Ezreal and the Tahm Kench now trying to finish off the Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai, though, not going to deal enough damage. Nami's there for the sake of being there. Darius and Zilean both have teleport up, and they could easily look to finish out this game with the Darius teleport coming in on top of the Nexus. Meanwhile, Zilean is chasing down the Ezreal. Darius is just on top of the Nexus, using those Trinity procs to deal as much damage as physically possible. Ezreal's going to go down to the bomb, and that is going to easily be game. Going towards the blue side, that is... Woo! That is a game.
Melbourne High School here showing their dominance in a clean game. A lot of strong macro plays being shown across the map, as well as individual skills. I think that a lot of their plays were really well executed, albeit maybe a little bit slower than I would have liked. But Darius being such a threat in the early game, and then Jinx coming online near the end there, really nice to see.
Absolutely, and you look at the damage dealt to champions now in the after effects. You can, surprisingly, Ezreal has the most damage out of everyone in the game.
And I think I mentioned that where Orianna wasn't quite at the point yet where she was able to be a threat, and so Ezreal was mostly the only damage threat on their team for a significant chunk of this game, which I think was probably one of their biggest downfalls, as opposed to having the triple damage threat, as well, honestly 4 damage threat if you include Rek'Sai, of the blue team here, just being able to be so much more oppressive and being able to generate those leads as we saw in this game.
And despite how the game looked with red team constantly feeling on the back foot, you can see in the damage numbers that Orianna and Ezreal were still able to relatively make something happen, especially with that last fight there that forced the blue team more or less to back off. But with that teleport advantage, they were just able to finish the game off super quickly.
Yeah, they almost made a miraculous comeback in that team fight. Things looked so up for the red team there, but just pure damage stats and itemization advantages that they had, as well as the teleports, as you mentioned, were able to just continue the fight a little bit longer, they'll sustain it a little bit more, and end up closing out the game.
Absolutely, and the lack of focus in that top lane from the red side is by far going to be, at least in my opinion, the most detrimental thing that happened to them in this game. Because normally, Poppy is able to get a good advantage in terms of harassing the Darius, especially with the crowd control and the percentage health damage on her Q, but it's because of that early rotation from the Rek'Sai, Darius was able to get that lead and then maintain it for the longest amount of time before the red team were actually able to do something to try and slow him down.
Yeah, I think Miko here on the Rek'Sai being able to establish so much pressure for his laners to be able to carry this game away. Definitely going to have to give him a shout out there. Really clean play by him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then we have the Jinx, the tower-destroying machine with that machine gun passive, just stacking the attack speed constantly, just going up and up and up, and just melting the towers away, especially with that opening that the Darius gave them in that on that Nexus turret fight with the Poppy. That turret, I didn't even see it go down, that's how quick it was.
You know, very, very big threat in the Jinx there. I think that if the game had gone on for just a little bit longer, you would have seen just how much more of a threat Jinx can be. But I think that is a pretty good summary of what happened in that game. I think that both teams look at that and they go, oh yeah, what can we improve on? You know, what did we do well? And I think that there's quite a few more obvious issues, but I think there's definitely, you know, a couple more subtle changes that they both teams need to take to be able to a little bit more clean and polished on these more macro-oriented plays.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a game. What an absolute fiesta this game turned out to be. And I love it. You'd rather have a fiesta than a siesta, 100%. Thank you all for watching. This was the Victorian High School League broadcast, esports. Again, thank you so much for watching. I was your play-by-play Adge, joined by the colorcaster Perplexer. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a good day.
Goodbye.
I gave you everything, held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me.